Okay.
Morning. Okay, so this is Thursday, August 21st. We're opening up the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission meeting for today. And I would, if you would take the roll, please.
Commissioner Bajpai.
Here.
Commissioner Chari.
Here.
Commissioner Glenn.
We'll go without her for now. I don't know if she's going to hear that.
Commissioner Hayes. Here. Commissioner Huffman.
Here.
Commissioner Miletus.
Here.
Commissioner Minty.
Here.
Commissioner Warren.
Here.
Chair Doherty.
Here. So we need to entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for the approval of the July 17th, 2025 commission meeting.
Chair.
Commissioner,
I move to approve the July 17th, 2025 commission meeting minutes as written.
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bajpai.
Yes.
Commissioner Chari.
Yes.
Commissioner Hayes.
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus.
Yes.
Commissioner Minty.
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Chair Doherty.
Yes. So now we have Nicole. There you are. Hi, Nicole. Welcome. Good to see you again. Now that I'm off your committee, I'm gonna have to, because I've got Commissioner Chori is filling in, not filling in, you're taking over for you.
Thank you, Chair.
So thanks for coming up here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good morning, commissioners. For the record, I'm Nicole Pexton. I'm the Chief Audit Executive here at OLCC, and I'm here to give you an internal audit overview. I promise it will be brief because I know it's typically not people's favorite topic. But, so, it's working.
Did you turn it on?
I did turn it on.
It worked earlier.
Yeah, I believe you.
Of course. All right, just you can.
Yeah, I'll just tell you next slide. That works. So a little about me first. I started at OLCC in May of 2022, so I've been here a little over 3 years. My audit experience includes Oregon Metro, which is Portland's regional government, if you're familiar, and also Secretary of State, which is the state's external auditor. I'm a certified internal auditor, and I'm also a member of the executive team, although non-voting, to preserve my independence and objectivity. Slide. So why does OLCC have an internal audit function? And the short answer is that we're required to. So administrative rule requires state agencies to have an internal auditor if they meet 2 out of 4 criteria. So that's having expenditures over 200 million, number of full-time equivalent employees over 400, processing cash revenue annually over 20 million, or receiving at least 50% of funding from either federal or other funds. So I believe we meet 3 out of the 4. The only one we don't meet is the number of FTE employees. And so we've been required to have an audit function for quite some time, but it's been contracted since 2007, and I was the first full-time auditor hired here. Next slide. Thank you. So what is internal audit? You probably heard the phrase either in the public or the private sector, may not know exactly what it is. This is my paraphrase of it. So internal audit is an independent, trusted advisor that helps OLCC achieve its strategic objectives. And there are 3 primary ways that I do that. And I'll go into more detail on these on the following slides. But the first is risk assessment. The second is providing audits and advisory services. And the third is follow-up. Slide. So diving in a little more detail here on my responsibilities. The first piece is conducting a risk assessment. So I do this annually. And what it consists of is speaking with directors and managers and staff and trying to figure out kind of what's getting in the way of us achieving the objectives in our strategic plan. And then I categorize all that feedback kind of by impact and probability, and the highest risks rise to the top, and I propose them to be included in the annual audit plan. The second piece, which is really the core of my responsibility, is completing audits and advisory services. So I'll just give you a little overview of the difference between the two. So audits are a formal review of a program against criteria. So that can mean statute, administrative rule, policy, or sometimes best practices. So the idea is to compare what should be happening with what is actually happening, and then trying to find the root cause of what the difference between those two is, and making recommendations to improve government services. And then advisory services are a little more informal. They're usually performed at management request, and they can include things like training, facilitation, or kind of more informal research that provides suggestions for management to consider. And then that last piece is following up on recommendations. So as you can imagine, that's a key part of accountability, is making sure that the agency is actually following up on what I recommend. And I'll note here as well that Governor Kotek has a keen interest in this as well. It's audit accountability is one of her expectations for government agencies. So twice a year, I report on the status of both internal and external audit recommendations to the Department of Administrative Services. And that's summarized in a big statewide report. So requirements, there are a few things that I'm required by statute to do each year. And one is to produce a risk assessment like I described that conforms to audit standards. Use that risk assessment to select and perform at least one internal audit per year. Normally I exceed that bar. I try to hit 3 to 4. And then audit a component of governance or risk management at least once every 5 years. And finally, file an annual report with DAS, and that just summarizes kind of what I've accomplished over the past year. And that, again, rolls up so you can see what all state agency internal audit functions are doing, and that's reported to the legislature. So internal audit oversight, or who audits the auditor, it's often a key point of interest for people. So I have kind of 3 components of oversight. The first is audit standards. The second is my audit committee, and I'll go over those 2 a little bit more. And then the third is a charter. And as you can imagine, it's challenging being an employee of the agency that I'm auditing. So to help maintain my independence, I have a dual reporting relationship. So functionally, I report to an internal audit committee. They're the ones responsible for overseeing my work and holding me accountable to it. But I also report administratively to the executive director, and that covers things like timesheets, leave requests, expenses, that sort of thing. Fine. So audit standards, I'm required to follow them. I follow the global internal audit standards from the Institute of Internal Auditors. Most state agencies follow the same ones. And following those requires a few different things from me. I have to develop policies and procedures and do self-assessments of how I'm fulfilling the requirements and the standards. But the most important piece is that I have to have an external quality review at least once every 5 years. So that's when another team comes in and reviews my work in detail to make sure that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. So I most recently completed OLCC's first external review in December of 2024 and got the highest possible rating there of generally conforms. So that should give you some assurance that I'm doing what I'm supposed to.
Congratulations.
Generally.
Thank you.
I know, right? It's a low bar. I think they're changing the language of that. And then the audit committee role. So the purpose of the audit committee is to improve the quality and independence of the audit function. So they're responsible for a variety of things that are documented in my charter, but this is kind of the highlights. So they approve my charter, my annual audit plan, review audit results and kind of compare my progress against the plan, monitor progress on internal and external audit recommendations, ensure I have a quality improvement program in place, and then finally provide input to the executive team on the appointment and removal of my position. So I just wanted to give you a little overview of the structure of the audit committee as it's written in my charter currently, maybe subject to change, but right now I have 7 members, 4 of which are external. So that means they're not OLCC employees, and that helps with my independence. At least 1 external member is required by statute to be an OLCC commissioner. members serve at the pleasure of the executive director, normally with a 3-year term. And internal members who supervise me cannot be on the committee, so Tara cannot be a voting member of the committee, and I hold at least 4 meetings per year. The appointment process is pretty simple. So the executive director designates the chair and approves new members, but any executive team member can nominate committee members for approval. So this is our current membership, and you can see that there's some vacancies, which is why this may be kind of revisited in the near future. But I've got 4 external members. Our chair is the chief audit executive at the Department of Administrative Services. Commissioner Chowry has graciously offered to serve in the required commissioner role. We have the director of the Drug and Alcohol Policy Council for the public health perspective, and a vacancy on our kind of IT expertise. So we had a member who recently rolled off there, but that's a key role that I want to fill because of all of our IT projects and just general IT risk that we have in this agency. We also have 3 internal members. So our Salem regional manager kind of fulfills our public safety perspective, but currently distilled spirits and financial services are both vacant. So I wanted to give you a couple of examples of work I've done. So this is not an exhaustive list since, you know, I complete a few of these each year, but some recent examples include a cybersecurity audit I completed earlier this year. So you can imagine that's a key issue for all organizations, public and private. So I provided some advice and kind of a roadmap for how we can set up our cybersecurity program for success. I also have been doing an annual audit required by policy, which you'll hear about a little bit later in this meeting, on a vendor allocated distilled spirits. And then a couple examples also of advisory work. So chance to purchase, I've been coordinating the independent observers of that drawing. So been recruiting and training state internal auditors to make sure that we're following our process for the drawing and it's transparent and accurate. And earlier this year, I also helped us develop a customer service policy. So that involved gathering feedback from staff through a survey and focus groups and using that feedback to draft a policy for management approval. So yeah, that's it. That's my work in a nutshell. I just wanted to give you an overview of my role and see if you have any questions.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, I got a little fearful when I saw the slides, so I thought we were going to be here for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions? Let me ask, did I miss you?
You can go. I'll go.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're looking for an IT member on the audit committee.
Yeah.
And given where we are right now, how soon will, you know, if we'll be able to fill that slot or?
Hopefully by the end of the calendar year is my goal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, and there would be external from OLCC?
ideally, I think.
Ideally,
Yeah.
okay. And then when we have the independent observers of our, you know, chance to purchase, are they outside the agency or outside of government, or are they?
They are outside of the agency. They're not outside of state government. They're
Okay.
other state government internal auditors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Hayes?
Getting to the slide so I could ask it more directly, but
Yeah.
you talked about risk and which
Mhm.
areas you were looking at for risk. Did you tell us that, or is there a place we see that just to?
But yeah, I did not include
I
it in
didn't
these
think you did.
slides, but yeah, I'm happy to follow up with you if you want more detail on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious where our risk, where you perceive or you assessed is our highest risk.
I mean, yeah, IT is up there. You know, we have a
You-
lot of major projects going on, so completing those successfully is an issue. And I think, you know, we have just room for improvement in some of our programs and being able to fulfill the goals of those programs.
And what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not risk because of what they're doing, it's risk because of the type of work they're doing. So,
Yes.
like
Mhm.
if you say, this is where I'm looking at the highest risk, it's the highest risk because of the type of work.
Because of the type of work or kind of what could go wrong.
Right.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's usually
I
risk is trying to predict the future. Yeah.
appreciate that because I think people get nervous and it's like,
Yeah.
why did they pick that or what's going on there? Not the
Yeah.
case. Thank you.
There's risk everywhere. You can't eliminate it. So, yeah.
Made me scared.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah.
Sure.
Commissioner.
I think when we all think about audits, usually numbers come to mind, right? Like making sure the numbers add up, and I understand your role as more of a holistic and evaluating policy. And so when we're evaluating policy as part of the audit, do we use like comparator best practices, other agencies, or do we strictly just compare to ORS, or how do you evaluate the sort of the policy aspect?
Yeah, Commissioner Minty, thank you for the question. That's a really good one. So it varies by audit, and it depends on kind of what's already in place. So I prefer to use kind of things that are formally adopted if possible. So things like statute and rule or policy. Sometimes there are areas where those aren't in place or where there's gray areas. So that's when we have to be a little more creative and kind of look to other agencies or outside of government, sometimes, especially in type of work that we do. But the key there is that I don't want to impose it on the agency. So I want to get agreement when I'm proposing criteria, and I'm actually required to do that by standards, making sure that they agree that this is a standard that they should fulfill.
Any other questions? Nicole, thank you very much.
You'll
Excellent.
see me again soon.
Lisa.
Oh, in person.
Good morning.
Welcome.
For the record, my name is Lisa Bertram, the Distilled Spirits Director, and I am here in person in the 3D,
Mhm.
finally. I've been in the state for about a month now, still transitioning the family, but I'm very happy to be here. Happy to present in front of you. I went to the construction site a couple times, so excited to see that as well. And happy to give you an update today on construction. Try it, just to
Point it.
Speaking of IT.
So the construction site, there's a lot going on at the construction site. There's a lot of concrete in the ground. As of right now, I think last time I talked about, kind of what's going on. We have these cameras that are set up all over the site. So this is just a picture of the site. This is kind of current. You can see the big section in the back. That's the entire slab. So that's really the foundation of the warehouse itself. And then these slabs in the front are tilt panels. So those are going to be the sides of the warehouse. So right now they're pouring all the tilt panels. And the way they do this is they'll pour the slab. They pour some of the tilt panels on the slab, and then they pour some of the tilt panels like around the slab. So you'll see that. So if you go to the next slide, what we're doing right now on site is the slab pours. So the slabs are all completed at this point. They have it set up with a map. So there's a big crane that's going to come in and do all the tilt panels. So there has to be a road for that crane to go on. It's a very big crane. So they've got those, the crane road is being prepped. The tilt panels are all being poured as of yesterday. They're all done. So they're ready to go up. The crane is actually coming over the weekend, and then they'll start tilting the panels up on Monday, which is very exciting. And then they're doing all the paving and grading. They're using the crane road, but then they're also prepping our roads. So we have an inbound road for trucks. We also have an inbound road for traffic, and then an outbound road on the other side. So prepping and grading all of those areas so they can do concrete, finish the concrete. They're also prepping the side streets to put curbs, edges, things like that, so that we can be prepped and ready to go for all of the side streets. This is the slab map I've showed you before. So slab on grade is SOG. All the slab is done. There is a little section, that yellow section on the slab map you can see is a road for, we have a shear wall inside this building for seismic. So once we don't have the shear wall up yet, so there is a little tiny bit that's not poured where the crane can come in, set the shear wall, and then go back out. And then once they have that done, then they'll pour that final piece of the slab. And then the two reds up top, that's actually the offices. So that'll be the last thing they pour. They'll get the tilt walls up, and then they'll end up with that as well. This is, let's talk about tilt panels. So as of right now, they're pouring out the tilt panels. This is a picture of a tilt panel. It was a little rainy when I went out there last week. But this, you can see the rebar sticking up. That piece from the rebar, like toward the front of the screen is actually on below grade. So when they tilt these up, they don't want a piece of footing that goes actually around the slab. And they actually tilt them up, where this side is actually the inside of the warehouse. They tilt them kind of up like this with the crane. So the crane will sit on the outside of this and tilt it. And then that piece at the bottom will sit down into a key essentially. So this cutout right here that you can see is one of the dock doors. That will eventually be the dock side. So this required a lot of rebar. So there's over 80 tilt panels that were poured. Like I said, they have a huge map for all this stuff. But this is just another picture of what those look like as they're prepping to do the pour before they get the concrete in them. And then just again, another picture of the panels as they're being poured on grade. And then this is kind of a long shot of all of the different dock doors. So on the front, on the back side of the warehouse where our dock doors are, we'll have 8 doors right away. So 6 of those doors will be outbound doors for the conveyance, and then we'll have 2 extra doors on that side. And then on the receiving side, we'll also have an additional 8 doors. So there's a lot of doors they're putting in. They're also building in knockout doors for the future. So we'll have the ability to go up to 14 doors just on this side. So what they'll do is they'll create our 8 doors that have a full dock plate, roll-up door, and then the other doors will just have kind of they call it a knockout. So it'll be a sheer face. You won't be able to tell that there's a door there really. But then in the future, if we need to knock it out, there's a method to actually like pull that out and then pull the face off of it. So there's a door behind that essentially. So we'll have the ability to expand in the future should we need to. This is the tilt panel map, which I think is really cool. All of these, this is from last week actually, but all of these are green now. So all the tilts are done. And as you can see, some of them are on the slab itself, which is that gray part. Anything outside of that is on a casting slab. So it's essentially on a tester slab that once they get the tilts actually up and welded in, then they'll remove those casting slabs. And then some of those areas, they'll just get graded over. But you can see too where that crane rope comes in, where the shear wall is. So this is all happening like next week, like I said, Monday, they're going to start tilting these up and then they'll tilt them up, support them, and then start welding them in. And then once they have all that done, then they can remove all the casting slabs that are on the outside of the building. This is just some paving and grading work that's going on. This is on, we have a truck entrance that's going to come in. This is actually the truck road that's coming in. So making sure that's level, getting the paving and grading done on that so that we can utilize that in the future. And then this is the paving and grading plan. So this, again, so the big square in the middle, that's the warehouse itself. The yellow on the left-hand side of this picture is going to be, that's the truck entrance for all truck traffic that can come down and go to the back of the building, which is where the dock doors are. On the right side of this, which is the south side of the building, is that's going to be just an exit essentially. So the trucks can come in from the north side and go out the south. They can also go out the north side as well. And then in the upper middle section there, that's the employee and visitor parking. And so there is an actual different entrance for that for employees and visitors to come in and park in that area. And there's a parking lot in the back, which is on the bottom of this drawing, which is the west side of the building. And that'll be for really trucks that are turning around, waiting to stage into a dock, all that good stuff. So there'll be more parking than we have today, more areas for trucks to turn around if they need to, or to stage waiting for either inbound or outbound traffic. And then this was just a picture of kind of you stand on the side of the slab. So that picture on the right, I think, gives a good look into it. But that slab is that's the grade of where the slab is. And then when they do the tilt panels, they'll actually sit kind of on the side of that. So they sit into a little key that goes on the outside of the slab. But you can see there's a lot of grading that has to be done to get even the paving and the road up to that level. But just a lot of work still being done as far as that goes. Some of the project risks, I talked about a couple of these in the past. I just want to kind of bring these up as we're working through the schedule and through through what we're doing. So one's the material handling system. Right now, we're working on really the solidification of that design. So we're at the point where we've made all the decisions. We're just waiting for the engineering team to come back and say, okay, this is where every little part and piece and screw and everything goes. And then once we have that from the engineers sign off, they'll start procuring the parts for that. We did a stacked design. So we have 5 different conveyors. There's a 3-stack conveyor and then there's a 2-stack conveyor. So those are going to be stacked up. And then we have a section on the other side of that that'll be open for future design. So we can put another tower there. We can put a case dispenser there. Lots of options in the future should we grow and expand. We're looking into fire suppression needs. So this is an alcoholic product. It has certain fire suppression needs depending on what it is, where it is, the proof. So understanding what all that means. Some of that is getting our very high proof alcohol into a specific area that has a specific sprinkler that goes with it in case of combustion. Thankfully, we haven't had that issue in the past, but there are a lot of things that go into making sure we have the right sprinklers in the right areas. But that specific high proof, that's a newer regulation from the fire marshals. And I've talked with colleagues in other states and they're experiencing the same thing as well. So it's anything over 100 proof. So if it's 100 proof, it's fine, but it's 100.01. It has to go in a specific area. We do have a small selection of our products that are like that. So just understanding in the system where those go, making sure they get to that high proof area and the sprinklers are all in the right spot. The schedule, same. So as we're working through, design and procurement, it has to go with a lot of things. The tilt panel erection was a big deal. So we were a little behind on schedule with the tilt panels. And over the last 2 weeks, they've been able to make up the schedule and are now right on track with the tilt panels. So that's very exciting. Very excited that they got that figured out. So the building completion itself is really, the tilt panels, once they get those done, they'll put the roof on, the joists, and that's where all the fire suppression, without getting too much detail, that's where the fire suppression goes as well. The MHS completion is kind of a different task because there's a lot of parts with that. So there'll be a completion for that and then a testing that will have to go into effect once we get the MHS completed. So currently right now, it's a continuous review of the timeline. So as we're procuring items, getting timelines from our subcontractors, we'll be able to know where in the schedule are we. And so if we have to adjust that schedule going forward, we can. So just making sure we're monitoring that so we can be better prepared as we roll into next year, which is when a lot of the interior activities are going to start up. Some opportunities we found already. So racking is one. We have 2 warehouses today that have a lot of racking in them. So we have in the process of getting an engineer to come out and look at our racking to see if we can reutilize it in the new space. Our new building is 36-foot clear height. It's got 40-foot clear height at some spots. So we can go up 5 high on our racking. Today we have 3 high and 4 high racking. So it's a little different. But we should be able to reutilize a lot of our racking, save some money on procurement of new product. So going through that right now to see what can we actually reuse and relocate. And then the same thing with furniture. So we do have a furniture budget. We are, separating the warehouse and the headquarters. So some of the items in this building are going to go to headquarters. Some are going to go to the Canby warehouse. Just so again, understanding like what can we reuse, what can we rebuild over there. Again, just to save some money in the budget and use what we have on hand. And that's my update for today. Any questions?
I'm just impressed at the schedule and that you're on time. I'm in construction. That's, I just like, wow.
Well, and I mean, thank you for that. It does go kind of up and down, right?
Yeah.
So depending on where we are, and I think that's the important bit is just monitoring it and then understanding when things do push the schedule, making sure that we're aware of why and what's happening. And if there's a good reason for it, it makes it important.
Yeah, kudos. Brilliant.
We're also very early on in the project.
Don't jinx it.
Well, no, yeah.
Lisa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well done. Nicole, we're back up again. Hello again.
Back.
worries. Yeah. Well, hello again. Didn't give you much of a chance to miss me. For the record, Nicole Paxton again, Chief Audit Executive. And now you get to actually see the results of an audit. So this is the vendor allocated distilled spirits audit. It's always a mouthful from calendar year 2024. So first, a little bit of background for our newer commissioners. So we have some distilled spirits that have what we call a vendor allocated status. And that means that the vendors propose the liquor stores that receive these products and the quantities that go to each. And they can be rare and highly sought after. So if you think of, the bourbon collectors trying to seek out specific bottles, often they have a vendor allocated status. So in 2018, OLCC started Chance to Purchase to give the public the opportunity to purchase these products instead of just hounding liquor stores for them. And as part of that, we set aside a safety stock of bottles in case of breakage or shipment errors to make sure that the winners could all receive the bottles that they won. And after the events of 2023, in May of that year, we adopted a vendor allocated distilled spirit distribution policy. So the core of that policy was to prevent employees from obtaining those products for themselves or others. It also explicitly prevented employees from accessing safety stock. But there were a few other requirements also. And one was that there has to be a distribution plan for each vendor allocated product. So it's what details, which bottles go into which categories, and I'll describe it a little bit more later. Also requires shipment to be consistent with those plans and requires an annual audit of the distribution of them. So that's why I'm here. This is the second annual audit required by policy. So because it's the second audit, my first objective is to follow up on the status of recommendations from last year's audit. So that was calendar year 2023. I also wanted to identify ways to track receipt of vendor allocated products and ensure distribution plans were in place. And then finally, because this was the first year that we kind of restarted our Chance to Purchase program, I wanted to determine whether the distribution of Chance to Purchase products matched the winner lists. So my scope was just everything from calendar year 2024, the plans and shipping and receiving reports for those products. So first off, the follow-up on last year's recommendations. So there's a lot of good news here. As you can see, there's 5 recommendations I issued last year. 4 out of the 5 were implemented, so that's 80%. That's pretty good. I'll just give you a quick overview of what these were to provide some context. So that first one, centralizing intake of distribution plans to a single address. There were some challenges last year with vendors sending the plans to different employees, sometimes who no longer worked at OLCC. So to make sure nothing got lost, I recommended, a single kind of generic email address. Pretty straightforward there. That was implemented. Similarly, the vendors all used kind of different formats for sending those in. So as you can imagine, that makes it difficult to compile and track them in a standard way. So I recommended a standard format, and the team implemented that as well. The third recommendation is the only one that was not implemented, and that's why it was a focus of this year's audit. So that was on a regular basis determining whether there were approved plans in place for all of the vendor allocated products received. There are some challenges in our current system with this, so I'll go into detail into kind of what I recommend this year to improve that. The fourth one was to reconcile the shipment with the plans to make sure everything was shipped accurately and investigating any discrepancies. I really want to give kudos to the team here. They did a really good job on this recommendation and had so much detail in their documentation that I didn't need to repeat their work. So this was a huge improvement from last year. And then finally, designating separate roles and responsibilities for approving those plans, entering them in the system for shipment, and reconciliation. So the idea there was because of the extra kind of public interest in these products, I wanted to provide assurance that we have segregation of duties so that no one person has control of the entire process for distributing these kind of products with a lot of interest in them. And that was also important. So we'll dive into the kind of one area for improvement here, a little bit of background first. So the policy required all those products to have a distribution plan that includes allocation to 3 different categories. So that's liquor stores, chance to purchase, and safety stock. As I mentioned, the vendors submit those plans on an OLCC spreadsheet template to a central email inbox. But the key point here is that warehouse staff don't always know when these products will ship. Next slide. Oh, one back. Yep. So in 2024, there was kind of a mismatch between the quantity of product that we received and what was listed on the plans that were provided to me. So that made it look like the quantities didn't match or plans were missing for over 50% of the vendor allocated item codes I found in our reporting. And there were a lot of reasons for that. One is that sometimes product just gets carried over from the prior year. Another is that often vendors send their products without saying where they should go. So staff estimated about 25% of the time this is happening. And it's difficult for staff to know that that product is there unless they proactively check for it in our kind of legacy warehouse management system. So there's no kind of notification, in that system. So it requires staff to do follow up to check to see whether the products are there and then follow up with the vendors to get those plans. So that doesn't seem like it was prioritized among everything else the warehouse staff is going on. As you can imagine, they're quite busy building a warehouse, developing new software, and just trying to continue daily operations. So this piece of it, maybe was not prioritized among those other duties. And then finally, and this was, probably one of the bigger issues this year, is that liquor stores can enter into a direct arrangement with a vendor to purchase the entire contents of a barrel. So it's called a barrel order. And there were those barrel orders kind of show up in our system as available for other stores to order, which caused some issues because they, want access to these products that they can't have access to. So as a workaround, staff classified some of them as vendor allocated to kind of set them aside so they went to the appropriate store. Unfortunately, that had the unintended consequence of inflating the number of vendor allocated products that we have and making it appear that plans were missing. So it caused issues in the tracking side of things. Slide. So there are 3 recommendations this year, and they track pretty directly with what I just shared with you. So the first is to require vendors to send plans when shipping their products. So I think we already have a mechanism in place to do that. So that should be easy, not easy to achieve, but it should be achievable. And to regularly monitor vendor allocated products received and follow up with vendors if they do not have plans in place. So doing that proactive work to make sure that we account for everything correctly. And then finally, choosing a different status that's not vendor allocated for those barrel orders to make sure to distinguish them from the vendor allocated products and prevent kind of the tracking issues that came from that. And then finally, good news here on the chance to purchase distribution. The winning products were shipped accurately. We had 4 drawings in 2024, and all of them were shipped accurately with a few minor exceptions that staff had noted in their records. So for all of those exceptions, which is truly a handful, winners either declined to purchase the product, which is within their right as participants in chance to purchase, or they accepted an alternate bottle. So no issues here. And then finally, the management response. Management agreed with all 3 recommendations, and the implementation dates range from March to June of 2026. And I believe that's it. Do you have any questions for me?
Commissioners? On the vendor allocated products, do we have say in that process of where they go? So it's not just the distillers that are saying where it goes. We're in that process.
Chair Doherty, thank you for the question. Yes, I do believe we have some say in that process. I think there can be a negotiation to kind of move products around based on what the vendors propose.
Yeah, I would think, well, what comes to mind is you've got one very successful store, so the distiller wants to
Yes.
give them all the good stuff, but we got other remote stores or that might,
Yes,
we want to have them benefit from that as well, I would think.
sure.
Okay, thank you. Right,
Oh, thank
thank you
you.
very much. I think we're not going to recess at this time. I think if Sarah, if you could come and chat with us about the stipulated settlements. Thank you. Morning, how are you doing this morning?
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
It's very informative to sit in the commission meeting rather than listening to it online. It's very helpful. Good morning, my name is Sarah Wolf. I'm a case presenter for the Administrative Hearings Division. I have one liquor settlement for you to consider. It is a minor decoy issue, and you have probably seen a number of these in the past few months. Are there any questions I could answer in regards to the events that happened?
Would you like to sit down or?
Certainly. I was trying to get away in a hurry. Any questions
Sure.
as to the nature of the settlement or the reasons for it?
Well, just give us a brief overview.
Okay.
What on-
We've got a vendor that actually it's a liquor licensee that had two individuals attempt to probably check a minor's decoys authentication. It's at the driver's license, and they failed. I think the vendor was trying to make an attempt to ensure that there was good service. That's what the report reflected. So one person took the order, failed to ask for identification for clarifying it to the age. The second person assumed the first person had done it and did not do it. So we had a minor served. I received a telephone call or communication. I think it was an email, almost immediately upon receipt of the notice by the licensee, inquiring as to what they could do to resolve it. I informed them that a settlement process was available and said I would have to run it through both public safety and the other members of my group, and I would get a copy to them for their consideration. I generally identified what would happen, and we went through the process, got approval, and I sent them a copy of the settlement. They signed it, sent it back, and called me and said, when can we pay? So I think it's a good settlement.
Okay, and the fact that it doesn't seem there was ill intent here, they were not trying to skirt the laws, but
I didn't see that in the report. I mean, it's difficult when you've got inspectors going into a location, trying to get it done, quickly and move on to the next issue. But there was nothing in the report that indicated that there was any intent to do this. I don't know what percentage of licensees have the same problem, but it's difficult to know. I simply can tell you from the response after I notified them about the settlement that they were immediately interested in resolving it and took full responsibility for it.
Okay.
So that indicates to me that they messed up a little, quote unquote, when they decided to have two people serve because they thought it would help get better service, and unfortunately it led to a problem.
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions? I would entertain a motion for the stipulated settlements.
Can I make that motion? I move to ratify the stipulated settlement agreement for the Lindsay as proposed by staff.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Take the roll, please.
Commissioner Batchford,
Yes.
Commissioner Chowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas,
Yes.
Commissioner Minty,
yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yeah.
Chair Doherty.
Yes. Motion passes. So now, Nicole. You got here early. Have you just been napping?
I did.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Chair Doherty and Commissioners, for the record, Nicole Blase, I'm the Rules Coordinator for the OLCC. Short rules presentation today. We have one rulemaking action for your consideration. And before I get started, Heidi Anderson, our Interim Director of Licensing, is just going to provide a brief background and presentation of the rule changes that you'll be voting on today. Good morning, Chair Doherty and members of the Commission. For the record, I'm Heidi Anderson, Interim Director of Licensing. Today, I'm here to ask that you allow staff to include an additional division to the alcohol bill and technical package that you opened last month. Each year, the bill and technical packages largely focus on implementing legislation, but modifications can be made to other rules to make them more clear or easier to comply with. Some of these changes come from conversations with licensees throughout the year or discussed in pieces of legislation that may not have passed. Others may be needed for new processes within the agency. As you are aware, over the past few years, we have been implementing the Cannabis and Alcohol Management Program, or CAMP. At this point in the process, all of licensing within the agency is done through the CAMP system. It's a big change, particularly for the liquor licensees who had been using a paper process extensively for a very, very long time. With that all being done online, it's very important for the agency to have current contact information, including emails for our applicants and licensees. It's also very important that we have requirements around management of online accounts and access to those accounts. This will help avoid confusion about who was responsible for submitting information through the online system, as well as who is responsible for the accuracy of that information. To make sure our rules are fair and consistent, it is important for both marijuana and alcohol to update simultaneously with the same language when parity between the programs is possible. You've already opened the marijuana rules needed to make this change. By opening this division in the alcohol package, we will be able to ensure the same information is collected for both programs. Again, having parity between the two where it is possible. Thank you for your continued support, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioners? Questions? Okay.
All right, thanks Heidi. Thank you. We have an initial action for an amended version of the 2025 Alcohol Housekeeping and Technical Rules Package. At the July 2025 meeting, the Commission initiated rulemaking for the Alcohol Housekeeping and Technical Package that included opening divisions 6 and 10. OLCC staff has also determined that initiating rulemaking for division 4 is needed so that the agency can update rules to modernize licensee contact information in line with CAMP, the new online licensing system.
All right. So I would entertain a motion on the rules package.
Chair, I move to initiate rulemaking to amend Division 4 and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Badgepike,
Yes.
Commissioner Chari,
Yes.
Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas,
Yes.
Commissioner Minty,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Chair Doherty.
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
are concluded. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are adjourned.